And I think that's part of building a jazz community is like going, hey, well, there was this guy, this artist and that from here that went to New York and changed the game. You're like, who's that? It's got Phineas Newborn. You ever heard Phineas Newborn? The Newborn family? Like, no, tell me about him. So that's part of like what I like, even like on my little radio show, it's part of like one of my little missions is to do that.
Welcome to the Showcast, a show about music, culture, and Memphis.
As we live into our mission of building community through music,
education,
and diversity,
we look forward to interviewing artists and musicians and hearing about how they are writing their own stories,
building their own communities.
85 years strong, and with a rich history, the Levitt Show has stood the test of time as a beacon of hope in the heart of Memphis. I can actually do that one more time.
This podcast is brought to you by Orion Federal Credit Union, where a big part of us is being a big part of the community. Visit orionfcu.com to see how Orion is redefining banking.
Welcome to the Showcast. This is episode 15, and for today's episode, I spoke with Joe Restivo, the uber-talented guitarist and member of the Bo Keys and City Champs. We spoke about his time at the New School, his musical projects, the magic of Memphis music, and more. Now, here's our conversation with Joe. Really, I have to start off our conversation by asking, it's a play off of your solo album title. Where's Joe?
Right here. I'm in Binghamton, baby. Binghamton. I'm in Memphis, sort of near the Overton Park, close to the park.
Awesome.
If any Memphians will know Sam Cooper, it's Sam Cooper East Parkway.
Very cool. And so where did you grow up in Memphis? Were you in that area growing up?
I grew up like in East Memphis. I grew up kind of near Overton High School, Park, Quince area. We moved there. I think I was like 2. And then that was where we stayed until I flew the coop, at 18. So, went to kind of was like a Catholic school kid and then eventually ended up at White Station. That's where I graduated.
Oh, awesome.
Public high school here in town. I've traveled a little bit around. I've lived outside the city a little bit. For the most part, I've been here for several decades.
Yeah, and I know you went to college in New York, correct?
I did. I went to a school called the New School, which is a fancy. I call it fancy. My friend Charlie Whittle used the term fancy pants school, which was funny because when I went there, when I decided to go there, I was actually living in Austin, Texas, and I was just sort of like completely rudderless in my life, and I was like, I want to study music or more. I felt like my education had been sort of not at what I'd hoped to be. And I was like, that school sounds great. This is like 1999. So accessing information about things was a little different. I mean, obviously we had the internet, but it was not like it is now. And
right.
I think I had a pamphlet. And I was like, this looks awesome. And there's all these legends that heroes of mine that teach here. Sounds good. I had no money. And I applied. I literally made a cassette tape.
Wow.
Which is funny to say now. I mean, it makes me sound old. I made a cassette tape, and I am old.
What are those?
Right. And I made a cassette tape, and it was kind of on a lark. I was really kind of just sort of desperate to do something with my life, and they accepted me, and I was like, oh my God, now I have to figure out how to do it. So it was like I got into the whole like, I'll just borrow some money and go to New York. I mean, I didn't know what I was doing. I mean, to be honest with you, but it was great. I mean, it was an amazing experience to be around the caliber of educators because at that time, and it's still like that, but that program, which in the program I'm talking about specifically is a jazz and contemporary music program at the New School University, that started in the mid '80s and started very small, and now it's grown quite a bit. I mean, much bigger than even when I was there. But it was like, I got to study with people that I do a radio show now on WYXR, and I study with people that I talk about on that show that are architects of that music, in the mid-century. So, I was the other day, my show, I did a Cannonball Adderley tribute, and I played a cut with an early band of his that featured Junior Mance on piano. Well, I studied with Junior. I met with Junior every Friday. We played,
Wow.
me and him in a room together. That was essentially our lesson. But Junior played with Dizzy Gillespie. He was in Dinah Washington's band. He was in Cannonball Adderley's band. He was a Capitol Records recording artist. I mean, he is a formative architect of modern post-war jazz. So there was a lot of people like that I got to be around, and then the student body was amazing. Robert Glasper was there. He was kind of like the star pupil. Who's, I don't know if people are familiar with contemporary jazz and hip hop. He's really a huge figure, and he was, even then, you kind of knew he was on to great things. Like, I had a class with him, but he was really sweet. But it was like, wow, this guy's an amazing talent. So being around people like that was a huge inspiration. And then it's very stressful too. I mean, my dad's actually from Brooklyn, and so I grew up kind of going up there for see family or whatever. And I always somewhat familiar with New York, but it's a very fast-paced life, and it's very difficult, especially if you're on a student budget. I didn't have any money.
True. Very true. So
and then 9/11 happened, and then that was a thing. So there was good, a lot of good things, and there were some other things that happened there that were like, whoa, okay. But overall, I have a lot of fond memories especially specifically of the university.
Yeah. So I mean, at least having family connection, not being so much of a culture shock. But I'm curious.
A little bit. A lot of the family had moved. Like, he came from like working class Brooklyn Italian neighborhoods, and they had like left for the most part. But I had some regional family. I had some family in Jersey. I had some family in upstate that I could, like, if I wanted to, like, I need to get out of here, I could take a train and go down to Jersey and hang out with my aunt, which was very cool. I got to kind of connect with her. She's since passed, but like really spent a lot of time with her. It was awesome. I have fond memories of that.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Now, I'm curious, after graduating, was it, just an automatic thought like, yes, I'm going back to Memphis, or what brought you back to the city?
Well, I knew New York. I'm not really a big market person. Like, just personality wise, I knew, like, I don't think I want to live here. Like, I don't think I want to live in LA. I don't like, it's just not, I kind of like it quiet, and I do like the speed of Memphis, but not originally. I mean, I was like, I just wanted to work, really.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really been my main goal. That's a very small goal, is to work. And I've been successful at that. I'm a professional musician. I make a living playing music, and that's really kind of what I wanted to do.
That's awesome.
But I felt like I hadn't really accessed everything I wanted to access in Memphis. And I'd spent enough time here as a kid, and like going down to Beale Street, and like, I mean, I was playing gigs at a very young age, but like, I knew there was more for me to glean from the music community and the tradition and the culture. So I definitely wanted that I was like missing parts of my game, so to speak, that I knew Memphis had, which is cool to be from here, because I know I have friends all over the world that are just like, oh man, you're from Memphis? Oh my God. Like, you get to play with, people who work, who made records at Stax or High Records. Like I'm not, that's not missed upon me, that I have an amazing opportunity, and that I've been able to be around that, especially being someone who's really into that kind of music. It's like, if I was a classical music person and I was from Vienna and left, it was like, well, I might as well just go back to the hub of classical music in Vienna.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, Memphis is sort of, in a lot of ways, ground zero for contemporary music, and specifically Black American music, which is what I'm interested in and have been since I was a kid. Like soul music, blues, jazz. A lot of people don't realize our strong jazz heritage. So for me, it's like, well, okay, makes sense. And plus, obviously, it's affordable, and there's opportunities to make, to work here as a musician. If you develop relationships and work hard and get in the scene and do the whole. And it took a while, but when I moved, I didn't move back to like officially because I was like, I just wanted to make a living, so I was like working on cruise ships and like orchestras, which was fun and awesome and very like instructive in order to like work a job, as a musician. Like it was, reading charts and doing shows. Of course, it got old after a while, as you would imagine. But like just to get some playing, working every day, and it's hard to do that. I mean, I've worked with kids with students in high school and college age kids, and it's like you just need to work. You need to apply your wares as much as possible. And that can be hard.
Yeah.
So that was a way to do it. I was literally working every day. So
wow.
But that lasted a few years, and I was like, all right, I'll come back to Memphis and slowly build up that ability to work a lot. I just wanted to play all the time and as much as possible and make a living.
For sure. Well, I mean, I see your name everywhere, and I it's almost like I can notice like, oh, that sounds like Joe, on a song or in a show.
Thank you. Wow, thank you.
And I mean, it's pretty impressive. I mean, you have your jazz quartet. You play with the Bo Keys. You have the City Champs, and then I know you collaborate with a number of artists in the city.
Oh yeah.
Do you feel as though with each of those, outlets, you're able to kind of tap into the various musical interests you have?
Yeah, I think for the most part, I do and can. Sometimes, do I wish there was a little bit more of a progressive modern jazz scene here? Yes, I do. That is the one thing. If I had to say, I'm kind of that little part. I do a lot of different things, but that little part of my interest, I kind of wish there was more places to play and more musicians to interact with. But like as far as like playing soul music and R&B, which I love dearly, and like it doesn't get any better. I mean, I work with some of the most incredible R&B and soul musicians in the world, period. Like I'll put any of the people I work with here up against anybody, anywhere, anytime. And
I love it.
That's not hyperbole. That's not me being a homer. That's just straight the truth. Because I've had the opportunity to travel, just playing, touring a little bit, and live in some other places, and like we stack up, and that's why like musicians here who do move to LA and other places, they start working pretty quickly, and they're like working with big people because that juice here and that sound. I don't have to convince probably the people listening to this podcast that it's a commodity. And so, but yeah, sometimes like I just would, as far as like the straight, because I am a straight ahead jazz geek, and sometimes I wish there was more of that. I have to sort of, for me, I have to sort of make the gig, build it, and I do a brunch gig or whatever. I have to make the outlet. I have to go out find it, build it, which is cool too. I think that's kind of maybe that's part of my little reason for being here. And there's a few of us that feel the same way. We're trying to build and tell the story of some of the amazing artists that specifically in that genre that came from here.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of building a jazz community is like going, hey, well, there was this guy, this artist and that from here that went to New York and changed the game. You're like, who's that? It's got Phineas Newborn. You ever heard Phineas Newborn? The Newborn Family? Like, no, tell me about him. So that's part of like what I like, even like on my little radio show, it's part of like one of my little missions is to do that. And also with the music I play and the record I did, the one record, I want to do another one, but like the one record I put out, that was part of it too. It's like trying to sort of make my little statement in regards to that.
Want to learn more about how you can support the Levitt Shell and its mission of building community through music, education, and diversity? Head to levittshell.org. You can read up on our 85-year history, check out our schedule of live and virtual events, visit our shell shop to grab all the swag, and find out ways you can participate in our mission, whether that's through donations, volunteering, sponsoring a show, or becoming a member of our Shell Circle. Once again, levittshell.org.
And speaking of, your solo record, during this last year and a half, have you had time to create and work, on your solo project?
Yeah, so I've been very, very busy. I mean, I'm very blessed and lucky. I've been just working because I'm working. When COVID hit, like I lost all my work, and then like a
Wow.
lot of people, and then I was pretty like very heavily involved with Don Bright and the Bokies, and we had tours planned. We were releasing a record. We released
Right.
Don's second record that was nominated for a Grammy. It was amazing, but we had all these tours planned, and those all got canceled. So and then all my like regular gigs in town got canceled. So there was kind of a period where I was scrambling, and luckily, just through some relationships with the music community that play heavily on Beale Street and the R&B community, I got a gig at BB King's. We all say BB's in Memphis, like BB King's on Memphis on Beale. And then I was already kind of playing upstairs at Itabina, so I started kind of just working by like I would say June. So when COVID hit, like in the spring, like by like June, I started like working quite a bit. So I'm
Wow.
like gigging like 5 nights a week down there, even still now. So I was like, oh, I just want to, again, like going back to what I originally said, I just want to work. But I
Yeah.
was also in the middle of putting together, I'm in a project called the Love Light Orchestra with my friend Mark Franklin and my other friend John Namath. And so we were in the middle of recording and finishing, which has been a whole thing, a record, which is going to come out. We have a label now next
Nice.
year. So like I was really involved with that. And then the City Champs, I was in the middle of the City Champs third record too.
Hmm.
So all that was kind of sort of happening at the same time. And so, but lately, in fact, I was just talking to my girlfriend. We were on a walk today. Like, I feel like I've got some breathing room where I've been thinking about my second record, what I want to do, and I have a concept for it. So it's just like that's kind of when I want to do something. I'll just think like a general idea for what I want it to sound like, and then I've always got like ideas everywhere, just sketches, like
Yeah.
constantly putting down sketches. And so yeah, I'm hoping next year to like, of course this gets into like financing, but like hopefully start recording something next year because that's like my next thing I really want to do is another solo record. So
For sure.
long-winded answer, but yeah.
No, it's good. It's good. And speaking of City Champs, you said you all released, Luna 68
Hmm.
this year. How inspired by the pandemic was that record?
It was so we had started. Luckily, we had started actually we had developed a relationship with Bruce Watson at Fat Possum and Big Legal Mess those are his two labels, before the pandemic. So that whole situation was essentially our drummer George Slepik, who has been recording quite a bit over at Bruce's studio, Delta Sonic, for his Bible and Tire imprint,
Mm.
his gospel imprint. George has been doing a lot of sessions over there. And him and there's some other people were like, Bruce, you got to hear this band. And had never heard us before. He's like, I wasn't around when we put our first record, two records out, which has been some time ago. So he was like, why don't you guys just come and hang out and we'll cut some stuff and we'll see where it goes. So that's really where we were at. And then we were just kept cutting. And then we hadn't even finished it when COVID happened.
Wow.
So we were like, it got weird, and we in terms of like, well, he wasn't, the studio had to close, of course. So it actually was good in a way because we were like, we needed more material, so we were able to finish kind of developing the material, and then once things started to kind of slowly open back up in the summer, on a limited basis, we went in there and finished tracking it and mixed it. So that's
Awesome.
kind of, it was like all happening at the same time, so to speak. But yeah, so like it was influenced in the terms of like it just sort of like shut everything down and gave us an opportunity. I know it sounds terrible, but it kind of gave us like an opportunity to go like finish because like our organ player is in this band St. Paul and the Broken Bones, which is a pretty big
Mm.
national act, and he's on the
Yeah.
road all the time. Well, all of a sudden he was here all the time. So his name's Al Gamble. He's an incredible musician in Memphis who's played on a million records. And he's got a little fishing cabin in Muscle Shoals where he's from.
Oh, awesome.
So he was like, let's go to the cabin. We'll like bring our instruments, and we like wrote a bunch of songs and worked up in a cover of a Tony song, and
I love it.
fished and hung out and came back and finished the record. So
something about Muscle Shoals. Can't beat it.
Oh my God. Yeah, absolutely.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, Joe, I mean, it's been a pleasure speaking with you. Please tell our listeners how they can find and connect with you.
So you can just find me on Instagram. I think it's just at Joe Restivo Music or at Joe Restivo. I'm terrible with socials, by the way. But that's a good way. Facebook's a good way. I have a Joe Restivo Music account as well. I do have a website that needs to be updated. It's terrible. JoeRestivoMusic.com. But you can find me on there. And then I'm playing, like, if you're in town, I play Sundays at Lafayette's for a brunch, and I've got a really great quartet that I've been working now with for 8 years. I played a group called Diversity down at BB's, which is an incredible band of incredible musicians. Our keyboard player's name is Keelan Ellis, who's an incredible producer, fantastic producer in his own right. Jackie Clark is the best bass player, also a producer, is the bass player. We have an amazing singer named Angela Northern. We also have another singer named Katrina Anderson. These are just two phenomenal powerhouse singers. I work with some of the best singers in the world. And our drummer, Tank Hodges, who's the nephew of Leroy Hodges, the bass player who was a high rhythm section. So he has that family connection to the Hodges family. And we play three nights a week down at BB's. So you can catch me down at BB's or in Abena, down on Beale Street almost any night. I'm usually floating around down there making music. So I'm easy to find.
I see. Awesome. Well, thank you again, Joe.
Absolutely.
And looking forward to continuing to hear some great music from you.
Oh, and last thing, Detective Bureau, which I didn't even get into, is a 6-piece group that I do, is playing the Shell October 16th. And that band is looking to record. We're hopefully going to put out our first release next year. But that's a very cool band. We've done a lot of film music. We've done a lot of like early 70s kind of soul jazz, and it's going to be a fun night. A lot of Brazilian, Latin influences in that band, so it's going to be a cool night.
Very cool. Super excited. October 16th, you said?
October 16th. Be there. It's free. You ain't got to pay. You got to come and hang out. Listen to Detective Bureau.
Good stuff. Awesome. Well, definitely will. Well, thank you again.
Thank you, McKenzii.
No problem. That's episode 15 of the Shellcast. Thanks again to Joe Restivo. To hear more of his music and stay connected, visit joerestivomusic.com. Make sure you subscribe to hear all of our episodes. To keep our tradition of passing around the tip bucket, which started in 1936, please feel free to drop a small gift at levittshell.org/virtualbucket to support the Levitt Shell. Thanks again, and be sure to tune in for our next episode of the Shellcast.